Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to News 360 and it's live from our news hub here at Desawe in Kanda. My name is Alfred Akansi.
And I'm Natalie Fort. Let's take a look at the headlines for this evening.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by...
Deadline for registration of qualified SHS applicants extended to the end of September.
Governing Board of Public Utilities Regulatory Commission condemns protest by staff against executive and public affairs directors, describing their action as unlawful.
Also ahead this evening, Ghana Immigration Service defies court order directing it to issue Indian businessman Ashok Kumar a temporary residence permit.
And in business tonight, 5,000 shippers access transactions online, with 500 of them successfully clearing their goods within 5 days of implementation of the paperless port transactions, despite challenges.
And on the foreign front, Human Rights Watch accuses the armies of Mali and Burkina Faso of committing serious abuses in their operations against Islamist militants in central Mali.
Bring you the details of this and more tonight here on News 360. Remember, you can join us on various social media platforms and be part of the news tonight. To our first story this evening, government has extended the deadline for the registration qualified SHS applicants for the fourth time. Now, the new deadline, according to a statement signed by the Education Minister, Dr. Matthew Poko-Prempeh, is now the end of September 2017. Portions of statement reads, the deadline for accessing the internet to complete the computerized school selection placement CSSPS process has been extended to the end of September 2017. The website is www.csSPS.gov.gh. The ministry assures parents and guardians that no child who qualified to be placed in a public senior high school will be left behind.
And still on this, earlier parents whose wards are yet to be placed had appealed to government to hold on to the release of the funds for the SHS program until every qualified applicant was placed. They argued it would have been unfair for any potential beneficiary to be deprived of the program.
The parents of the SHS applicants, most of whom had traveled from different parts of the country to the Education Ministry, were angry their issues had not been resolved. They blamed staff at the ministry for deliberately not securing placement for their ward.
You know the inside. You make mistakes. And when the mistakes are made, there are lessons learned which are fed back into the system. So you have to come rectify. No, the child didn't choose this.
We are teachers, so we are not parents. We have come to represent some of our students because the schools we chose for them has been changed. You see that after choosing the school, somewhere in July, WIPE will come out with this thing that confirm the schools that you've chosen on your phone. Okay, when they confirm, some parents, we have come to represent some of our students because the schools we chose for them has been changed. You see that after choosing the school, somewhere in July, WIPE will come out with this thing that confirm the schools that you've chosen on your phone. Okay, when they confirm, some of them had their schools changed. So whose fault? It is the fault of those who are doing the placement.
Some of them who declined speaking to the news team on camera lauded government for the release of 50% funds to the schools, but suggested that the next tranche should be put on hold. According to them, until government resolves their placement challenges, the release of the funds may not benefit their wards.
They sent her to Jamestown, opposite police station over there. When I went there yesterday, they said the contract is there. He's doing general art. When I went there, they said they don't do art over there. So I don't know what to do again.
Beyond your problems, the government said it's releasing the money, about 50%, to hit the accounts of the schools for them to begin the use of the money. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's nice, but maybe my problem is what I'm seeing.
They were saying I should go to the net and go and do the re-entry also. But what I realized, all the schools Upper East, Upper West, and my son cannot move from here to that place.
But the sector minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, explained the funds were meant for the smooth run of the schools as they reopen next week.
I can state with the fact that over 200 schools that have suppliers of food, who the heads feel they are good enough to continue, have registered with Buffer Stock Company. And Buffer Stock Company are just right.
That the PTA levies and charges have been absorbed by government, but urged the schools to be patient to await the next tranche.
Well, the frustrations are telling. Now, I've been joined on the telephone by the Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Education Service, Reverend Jonathan Bette. Reverend, good evening to you. Thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening, my brother.
Well, now, this is the fourth time you are postponing the deadline. I hope this is going to be the last time.
This is going to be the last time. It's not a matter of counting the number of times that the postponement had occurred, but the challenges that we're facing and how best we wanted to solve the issue is what we should think about rather than the number of times. We've realized that we still have few of our candidates or our students to access the internet for their placement that has called in for the extension to the end of this month.
Now, official date for the reopening of schools, so the senior high school, is Monday, September 11th. Now, with this extension, is that not going to affect the whole process of the head teachers getting their students in?
I doubt if that will affect the system. I believe some people were calling on the minister and stakeholders for the extension in order to allow them prepare adequately for their awards to join the continuing students. That is why it has come very necessary. Meanwhile, we have announced that the opening day is on the 11th for continuing students and the first years to be there.
So the 30th is the reopening date or date for the new entrance. That's the SHS Form 1 students.
That is not the issue. The reopening date for all senior high school students is on the 11th, which is Monday.
Okay.
But we said that few other people are left behind to check and place themselves. We wanted collective registration of people and placement of our children. That is why the extension.
I see. Now, some of the head teachers have been complaining that they don't have the admission list of the students who have been sent to their schools. And schools are supposed to reopen on the 11th, that's on Monday. What is the GS doing to ensure that before Monday, they get the admission list of students that have been sent to their schools?
GS will make everything possible. At the right time that we have come to the conclusion to the schools. Meanwhile, school resumes on 11th, which will be Monday.
Well, but is it, Reverend, some of the frustrations that the parents have been expressing to us are varying. I mean, here's the case where, for example, someone has been sent to a special school, I mean, a school for deaf and dumb, and the person is not deaf and dumb, a rather very able person. How does a parent who has this problem of her child being sent to a deaf and dumb school rectify this situation?
Thank you, my brother. This is a peculiar situation which the minister and his technical officers are dealing with. I can tell you that we have dealt with that issue and we've spoken to the students and their parents at the Ministry of Education, those who reported this incident or story, and we have attended to them and assured them of correcting the menace or correcting the situation.
But how about those who have had their awards posted or placed in schools where they have no relatives, no places to house them. I mean, they've been sent to day schools where, for example, someone's come from the Volta region, has been sent to a day school in the Greater Accra region, and they have no relatives. How do they go about this?
Well, thank you very much. My brother, you and I attended school, secondary school, at places that we did not have a relative. I tell you, I attended school at where I did not have a relative. I think you also did. It's the same thing that is going on. It's not necessarily, excuse me, my word, that's not necessarily you having your uncle, your grandmother in a community before you school over there. This is a situation where these people have to go outside their families to attend school. We know the inconveniences that they're going to face, and I believe after the first term, all things will be settled for them to be used to the situation. It is a process, and it is a training process also that our children are going, even though it will inconvenience some of them and their parents.
Reverend, I really don't understand that, because if you are saying they're going to cope, I mean, they've been sent to a day school. If it was a boarding school, then that would be understood. I mean, you have your parents in a region and you've been sent to a day school, meaning that you're not going to have a place of abode in that particular school. I mean, you're supposed to look for accommodation in town to be able to attend school. I mean, how did you do this?
That is the situation.
Which situation?
That is the situation, yes, my brother.
So they would have to accept it that way? Nothing is going to be done?
If there is anything to be done, my minister will address the entire country at the appropriate time.
Thank you. We're grateful. Reverend Jonathan Bette speaks for the Ghana Education Service.
Well, let's turn attention away from education now, as the governing board of the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, has described as unruly, unlawful and unsubstantiated and pronouncements by the union against the Executive Secretary and Public Affairs Director. The board in a statement questioned the justification of the union to lock up the offices on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Workers' Union has asked its Executive Secretary, Samuel Sarpong, to resign peacefully or risk being forced out.
Offices of the PURC across the country were locked on Thursday, preventing staff from entering as workers protested the continuous stay in office of the Executive Secretary, Samuel Sarpong. They were also resisting the possible return of their Public Affairs Director, who had applied to resign and is currently on leave. Visiting the head office on Friday, workers were at post with normal duties ongoing. You were here yesterday, your door was locked. You said you didn't know who locked the door. So how were you able to open the door to come in today?
Yeah, we just got a tool to break it. Yeah, we break the lock.
So why didn't you do this yesterday in the morning and then you stayed out without working yesterday?
You see, if you have your staff taking an action, you have to seek their consent. You are a leader over people. You can't lord it over them. And that is the same thing they are fighting against. I don't want to find myself in that situation.
Was it a deliberate attempt not to work yesterday?
Oh, it wasn't a work. They were preventing an illegality.
Despite rescinding their threat to demonstrate, they stand by their quest to see the Executive Secretary removed.
Whether 1 week or 2 weeks, we will still look for him to have a discussions with him. And the discussions is that he has to make sure that he exits peacefully and let us move on as an organ. He can't hold the whole of PURC to ransom.
We want to be free. We want to work as professionals. We want to excel, because I have been here for 8 years and I have a lot of colleagues here who have also worked here for a long time, and we are still where we are. Everybody wants to move forward.
The Executive Secretary had not been at the office for 2 days. It's almost 11 and he's not in, which is unusual.
Sometimes he has meeting outside in the morning. It can be around 8 but I haven't get in touch with him for today.
This is the office of the Executive Secretary, Mr. Sarpong. This is actually his office. We just spoke to his secretary. She has no idea why he's not here, and she's not aware of any meeting or anything that will be keeping him from coming to the office. Meanwhile, the governing board of the commission in its statement indicated Nana Yajantua was at the office on Wednesday to be part of a meeting mainly to discuss administrative processes which would ensure a smooth handover of her responsibilities to a new manager who assumed duty on September 4. It further indicated Nana Yajantua remains a bona fide staff of the commission until November 15, when her resignation takes effect. A statement added the commission would make every effort to aggregate all institutional memory and the 26 years experience of the outgoing public affairs director before she exits.
Providers of adult literacy programs are calling for increased funding for non-formal education sector. They lament the absence of a policy to regulate the sector is a major setback towards improving adult literacy rates in the country, which currently stands at 76%.
Data from the UNESCO Institute for Statistics reveals there are 750 million illiterate adults globally, of whom 2/3 are women. Experts say the figures are a reminder of work ahead to meet Sustainable Development Goals 4 and 5 and the Education 2030 targets aimed at ensuring equitable education for all. At a ceremony to mark World Literacy Day in Accra, the executive director of Pamoja, a network for youth and adult education practitioners, Matthew Ayingo, called on government to pay more attention to non-formal education sector.
There should be increased visibility through participation in decision-making on issues concerning education in Ghana. And we also wish the government will consider the appointment of a Deputy Minister of State in charge of non-formal education in Ghana, as it obtains in other countries of Africa.
Deputy Minister of Education Barbara Acey expressed government's resolve to push national functional literacy programs in the country, factoring in digital migration.
The Non-Formal Education Division is currently designing an information technology and digital literacy program aimed at equipping adult learners with ICT skills as part of an accelerated literacy plan for all target groups.
Deputy Greater Accra Regional Minister Elizabeth Saki stressed the need for the non-formal sector of the Ministry of Education to design appropriate strategies which would improve functional literacy whilst bridging the gap created by digital technology. Dean of the Institute for Continuing and Distance Education, Professor Michael Togo, underscored the need for learners in the informal education sector to be taken through health, finance and information technology literacy. Still live here on News 360. We're streaming all across the world on 3news.com and TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Let's take a look at what's still ahead this evening.
5,000 shippers access transactions online, with 500 of them successfully clearing their goods within 5 days of implementation of the paperless port transactions despite challenges with the new system.
And on the foreign front, Human Rights Watch accuses armies of Mali and Burkina Faso of committing serious abuses in their operations against Islamist militants in central Mali. We've got the details of these stories for you and the very latest from the world of business with Nanyokia Mensah Brampa shortly. Stay with us.
You're still tuned into News 360, time for business. My name is Nanyokia Mensah Brampa. The Vice President of the First Group, Angela Osei-Kuffour, has linked the difficulty in doing business in the country to the weak economic fundamentals. Now, she recommends a supportive business environment as key to entice investments.
Angela Osei-Kuffour, who is among the top 50 women corporate leaders in Ghana, noted Ghana is doing fairly well in investments, but needs to get the economic fundamentals right.
The conditions out there are still difficult. We are not out of the difficult times yet. Economy-wise, fundamentals are still struggling. Has some effect on how businesses operate, and it ties into how much profit you can make. Obviously, the interest rates that we are working with right now is crippling. So once we get the fundamentals right, the interest rates come down, and obviously it will have its trickle-down effects to businesses.
The top non-ranking corporate list features 50 leading corporate women from various business sectors including banking, investments, media, telecommunications, insurance, local and international NGOs. The Vice President of First Group Ghana and a senior private equity analyst is of the view the central bank should consult widely with the banks before coming up with a new minimum capital requirement. She noted the central bank's upward review of the capital requirement across board is to protect local banks.
In as much as we talk about the fact that how are local banks going to meet this minimum capital, I get it that the Bank of Ghana doesn't also want to disadvantage them. You don't want a banking sector in which you have increased the capital requirements for only international banks, and so they are able to do the large transactions.
She indicated local banks will not be able to raise the capital should the Bank of Ghana peg the new minimum capital requirement very high.
Local banks will struggle if they have to raise that capital. It will not be as easy as with the internationals who have parents who can just dish out the money to them. I believe the Bank of Ghana will do the proper thing. They will speak to the banks, they will get their input about the timing, how easy will it be for them to be able to meet that requirement.
Angela Osei-Kuffour is of the view some of the smaller banks would have to go into mergers.
Why, so Angela Osei-Kuffour hit it right on the nail, talking about the minimum capital requirements. Well, banking consultant Nana Otuechampon is suggesting that the Bank of Ghana considers the size of the economy, issues of non-performing loans in some banking institutions and other emerging factors before pegging the new minimum capital. He is, however, predicting between 200 and 300 million cedis from the current 120 million cedis. An increase in the minimum capital requirement is expected to ensure smaller number banks with the requisite resources to serve customers.
If push comes to shove, then I would say it will be between 200 and 300. Looking at the size of the economy, the performance of the economy, the non-performing loans that are hanging on the necks of the banks.
Already, some observers have urged the central bank to use the exercise of force measures. This government is already considering. With the increase in capital, banking consultant Nana Otuechampon says smaller banks will suffer.
For the big banks, even 500 will be small fish for them. But for small banks, even 200, they will be struggling. But just as they did in 2001, when it was moved from 7 million to 60 million, eventually they all found it. So it depends on the time frame that the regulator will allow them to find the money.
Already, the central bank is emphatic it will not force banks to consolidate, but will firmly ensure that banks comply with the directive. Commercial banks are expected to be given up to December 2018 to meet the new capital requirement by the central bank. Right, in signals we are picking from the central bank, looks like the commercial banks might be getting a minimum capital requirement of 400 million Ghana cedis. But let's see how it goes from 300 and 200 to 400. Well, we'll get answers to that by next week from the central bank. But away from that, 5,000 shippers have accessed the online transaction, with 500 successfully clearing their goods within the 5 days of the implementation of the paperless port transactions. The Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority has, however, authorized the release of more than 160 declarations locked up in the paperless transaction system to be cleared through the old system.
The Deputy Commissioner in charge of Policy and Programs, Yao Chair Richard Patrick, said the move was to salvage a disturbing situation.
I can confirm to you that for rent charges due for Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Port Authority have decided to absorb those challenges, partly because some of the challenges or the delays that led to these things were they were a little bit to take the responsibility for that one.
Thursday, freight forwarders raised red flags over the backlog of the old system and network challenges. 500 declarations of the backlog have been cleared. Currently, the team is using both the old and the paperless transaction. 3 customs officers have been deployed to fast-track the old process. Customs says discussions are ongoing to appeal to the private terminal owners to reduce terminal rent charges for the period. Statistics from the Ghana Shippers Authority indicated that from Monday to Friday, over 5,000 shippers have accessed the online transaction, with 500 successfully clearing their goods.
This regime. So we had a backlog, like you are saying, of around 160 containers, which had been examined. And so once they have been examined, the thing was for them to go out of the port.
Aside the challenges with the paperless transaction, one of its benefits is its risk profiling mechanism, which detects fake documents. Josephine Frimpong, TV3 News.
Well, we'll later see how those backlogs turn out from the ports there, talking about the paperless nature. But there's more news on our website. It's 3news.com. That will do for business. My name is Nanekia Mensah-Brampa. Alfred is standing by with more.
Well, thank you very much. And it's a weekend ahead of us. Paperless weekend, hopefully. But away from that, the Ghana Immigration Service has defied a court order directing it to issue Indian businessman Ashok Kumar Sivram, who is fighting an illegal deportation, a temporary residence permit. According to lawyers for the Ghana Immigration Service, in their operations, there is nothing like a temporary visa, hence their failure to issue it.
Counsel for the Ghana Immigration Service GIS told the court they had issued the businessman a passport retention slip which gives him a legal stay in the country while they process his application for a permanent visa. They added they were unable to issue the visa because Ashok Sivram applied for a permanent residence and work visa. Responding to the revelation by the GIS, lawyer for the applicant Gary Nimaku described as misleading the comment that his client applied for a permanent visa. According to him, officials of the Immigration Service directed him to pay $500 for a temporary visa, which he did only to be issued with a passport retention slip. But the court presided over by Justice Na Doleazu was unhappy the directive was not carried out by the GIS. Justice Na Doleazu also warned the representative of the Attorney General, Jasmine Ama, who was giggling at the turn of events, and ordered her to apologize for her actions, describing the act as distasteful. She further warned officials of state to stop using the power available to them capriciously. The substantive matter before the court is an application for mandamus in which the businessman is praying the court to order the GIS to restore his residence and work permit, which was cancelled following his deportation on June 1 this year, after his deportation was quashed by the High Court on July 31. The court has set Monday, September 18 for the hearing of the application.
Now, the Minister of Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, has challenged the National Accreditation Board to stop technical universities from running marketing and allied programs. The sector minister at the inauguration of governing councils of some technical universities in Accra noted their mandate is to focus on providing technical skills.
The governing councils are for the Accra, Kumasi, Ho, Takoradi, Sunyani, and Koforidua technical universities. They were mandated to uphold streamlining courses to link academia to industry. Of major worry to the Minister of Education are technical universities which are running courses in marketing and other allied programs. He challenged the National Accreditation Board to immediately stop those institutions from such programs.
The NCT will be at hand to provide the necessary support and guidance. I'm confident that as long as you consult, we can together create the technical universities that our countries need, and in no time the desired impact.
He again pleaded with staff of the various technical universities to exercise restraint for the remaining councils to be constituted.
We realize that some of the council members are claimed to be pending because Council of State has not approved some, even from a regulator like NCT. So the work is not rubber stamping. The work is not rubber stamping. It's about choosing the right caliber of people.
Governing Council Chairman of Ho Technical University, Emmanuel James Plahu, assured the Minister of streamlining the program structure.
Industry cannot expand without our research expertise, and this should receive the needed attention from us.
Still watching News 360, we've got some news for you from the world of sport shortly. Stay with us.
Welcome back to News 360. Let's go to Togo now. Soldiers in the Togolese capital are desperately looking for opposition demonstrators who vandalized public property on Friday morning. The soldiers have heavily descended on the protesters, beating them with sticks and batons. Kamla Kloche is in Lome and he's filed this report.
A fierce protest on Thursday, the opposition will not budge. Thousands poured in the streets with a common voice, "Four must go." Defiant, the opposition is poised to be on the streets for 60 days. On Friday, the protesters burned car tires and blocked parts of the road. The soldiers are desperately in search of them. House to house, room to room, they search for these protesters. The government has vowed to deal ruthlessly with anyone who destroys public property. Now, the protest in Togo and by Togolese nationals across the continent against the 50-year rule of the Nyasingbes has intensified. Protesters are calling for a return to the 1992 constitution. We spoke earlier with the executive director of the West African Network for Peacebuilding, WANEP, Chukwuemeka Ezi, who said the solution lies in the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance.
The Togolese community in Ghana have also been holding protests with regards to him stepping down. Do you think it's something that can escalate into a violent one in the sub-region?
Well, I think it depends on how it is managed. If it is not properly managed, we have a history to refer to. Burkina Faso is a very good example of the lack of early management of the pressure being mounted on the state. But I think in this instance, I think it's important that the opposition also play within the limits of the Constitution. Asking President Faure Nyasigbe to step down when he is duly elected in itself will also constitute a breach of the Constitution. However, I think also that it's important, especially at a period that most of the countries in West Africa are eager to have a review of the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance and include term limit for the offices of the president.
President Nyasigbe is currently the chairman of ECOWAS. How difficult does that make it for ECOWAS to intervene when he's sitting at the top seat of the body?
Well, I don't think as ECOWAS as a body, in terms of the authority of heads of state and government, I don't think it is difficult for them. However, I'm suspecting that the reason why the Commission have not acted, including issuing a very strong statement condemning all acts of violence and asking for dialogue, is because of the position of President Faure Nyasigbe. But I also think that the rest of the members of the community, especially Ghana, Benin, and perhaps Nigeria, that are key stakeholders if anything should happen in Togo, because Ghana is a likely destination for refugees if anything untoward will happen in Togo. Benin is another destination, and probably Nigeria. We had already, earlier on, called for a revision of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Good Governance. And Togo and Gambia were the only two countries that did not accept that. If that had happened, today we'll be singing a different song, because if anything happens, ECOWAS can always refer to the protocol. But today, the mandate simply does not provide even for ECOWAS to ask for Nyasimbe to step down. It does not arise. So to that extent, everybody needs to play within the limits of the Constitution. Until the Constitution is reviewed, President Nyasimbe has a right to sit as the president.
All right, so let's let you know, we are going to establish contact with our man, Komla Kluche, who is in Lome. He's been there for the past almost 72 hours, the past 3 days, monitoring the situation. That's merely be aware. Internet is still shut down or restricted in access in Togo, so he has to move to the border town of Aplao to be able to connect with us. So he's going to get to us very shortly. But those images you saw very exclusively to us with the military trying to get through to the protesters whom they allege destroyed public property during the protest. We'll get some more on that, but let's all go to some international news where Human Rights Watch accuses the armies of Mali and Burkina Faso of committing serious abuses in the operations against Islamist militants in central Mali.
Human Rights Watch has accused the armies of Mali and Burkina Faso of committing serious abuses in their operations against Islamist militants in central Mali. The campaign group said Malian forces had committed extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, torture and arbitrary arrest against men accused of supporting Islamist armed groups. The right group said the abuses occurred between late 2016 and July 2017 during operations in the central region of Mopti. Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga has asked supporters to help fund his campaign ahead of the presidential election rerun set for 17 October. Raila Odinga's political fortunes were revived after the Supreme Court annulled President Uhuru Kenyatta's win in last month's election, citing irregularities and illegalities. Odinga is casting himself as the biblical Joshua who will lead Kenyans to the promised land, Canaan. The opposition leader has said in the past that he opposes the 17 October date and would prefer a date later in the month.
All right, so it's time to bring you all the latest in the world of sports right here on News 360. My name is Thierry Nyan. Let's get started. Now, Ghana will have another chance to lighting up the mood among fans. The WAFU tournament brings them that opportunity. The local Black Stars have been preparing for the WAFU tournament, which kicks off this weekend. And Hearts of Oak midfielder Winfrey Kobna insists he and his colleagues have it all to do in winning this one.
I'm representing my country, so I just have to do my best and go win and win the cup. So because that's the only thing we can do to make Ghanaians happy. We lost the chance to qualify to the CHAN and it was bad. So we just have to make amends by winning this league, this tournament for them. We want to win this WAFU tournament for Ghanaians. So everyone is ready for this tournament.
All right, so that was Winfrey Kobna, and he's a Hearts of Oak midfielder also being utilized by Max Okune doing the local Black Stars. But talking about the local Black Stars, Ghana are going to be kicking off the tournament, or beginning the tournament, with a game against Gambia. So that is going to be the opening fixture of this particular one, and they are found in Zone A of the tournament. Now, Nigeria will also be facing Sierra Leone, and then Mali will face Mauritania. Guinea will also come up against Burkina, or Guinea-Bissau it is. So that's exactly it. And now in Zone B, there are going to be some other fixtures in there. Remember, Zone B games are going to be played at Cape Coast. Now, Senegal will face Liberia as one of the giants in there. Burkina Faso will play against Niger, Ivory Coast against Togo, and then Benin will also play against Cape Verde. So that's exactly it when you look at the WAFU fixtures. Let's move away from that then. Let's go straight to England, because Chelsea fans will smile at this one. Before I bring you, what to expect this week in the English Premier League, let's focus on, Stamford Bridge, because Antonio Conte has confirmed that star forward Eden Hazard is in the Chelsea squad to face Leicester City this weekend after recovering from an ankle injury. The attacking midfielder has not been not featured for the Blues since the end of last season after picking up an injury while on international duty. Now, he returned to action for Belgium during international break against Gibraltar, scoring a goal as Belgium beat Gibraltar by 9-0. So Antonio Conte has him available, but says he's not too sure if the Belgium forward is going to be starting the game. Talking about the game that Chelsea are going to be playing against Leicester City, well, that is one of the fixtures you are definitely going to be seeing this weekend, and that game is at the King Power Stadium. But the weekend starts in English football with Manchester City as they face Liverpool, and that is the biggest clash of the weekend, and it really will blow it up for the whole, Saturday and Sunday match days, just so we are able to, see some entertaining games in there. So Pep Guardiola versus Jurgen Klopp, let's see exactly how that goes. But Arsenal will also be at the Emirates against Bournemouth. Arsenal have not exactly had the best of starts, under Arsene Wenger, and they will be hoping to rekindle that kind of form that has seen them be the top club that they have been in the last few decades. But Brighton Hove Albion will also be coming up against West Bromwich Albion, and then Everton will also face Tottenham Hotspur, two teams who really give the top guys a lot of difficulties when it comes to the English Premier League. So these are some of the fixtures that you should be expecting. But also going on, Southampton will face Watford, Stoke City against Manchester United, and all those games are on Saturday. But on Sunday, there is Burnley versus Crystal Palace. Swansea City will also face Newcastle United. And then there is another Monday night football right there, West Ham United against Huddersfield. Remember, the game between Swansea City and Crystal Palace will feature Jordan Ayew and Christian Atsu. Andre Ayew should be in that game, for West Ham United against Huddersfield. So that's it when it comes to the English Premier League. There are several players making their debut this weekend after making swishes and moves from one top club to the other in Europe on transfer deadline day. Now, these are the top transfer deadline day, signings, and how they are going to be kicking off their campaigns in their new, clubs. Now, for the second most expensive player in the world, Kylian Mbappe, he's already made a start, against Metz for Paris Saint-Germain tonight. Hopefully, he gives us the kind of magic Neymar had on his debut. Let's move on to the next player. Then you can expect the world's third most expensive player, this man right there behind me, Ousmane Dembele, to make his debut for Barcelona against Espanyol after the Blaugrana did all they could to land him this particular summer. And then to this man, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. You can also expect him to make his debut for Liverpool this weekend. It's a mouth-watering clash with Manchester City, and even if Jurgen Klopp sticks with his winning team that blew Arsenal away some days ago, Chamberlain definitely will feature. And then to this man, Chelsea's new man in midfield, Danny Drinkwater. Maybe he's going to be sipping some water during the game against Leicester City, but he's facing a big battle against the likes of Bakayoko, Cesc Fabregas and N'Golo Kante. But let's move away from there. Let's go straight to some other news. And, well, that's exactly how we bring an end to the sports bulletin. My name is Thierry Nyan. We'll definitely bring you some more sports news. And there is warm-up tomorrow also at 10 a.m. Keep watching TV3 and enjoy your weekend.
Welcome back to News 360. Time now for some entertainment news. Now, for most talents, being in the limelight usually requires a combination of passion, hard work and focus. From running errands, sweeping stages and packing instruments for performers, well, rising star Fatal Keita says he is well braced to do music. He spoke with News360.
It's tedious to work your way up. The journey, often discomforting, requires mentees serving and paying their dues.
Boko boko, boko midwe, boko boko.
Meet Fatal Keita, a fast-rising singer who epitomizes service, hard work and perseverance. The gifted singer discovered his passion for music while serving other senior bandsmen.
I was packing instruments, arranging instruments on stage for professional musicians. Kojo-entry, Asiedu-Dartey. So through that, I found out that I need to do music. And it was very difficult, but I took it as a learning process.
And we're cleaning the stage as well for them?
Yes. Yeah. We go, for the first thing we do, we clean the stage.
Aside the menial jobs, Fatal by default, rather than design, also got to appear on the main stage, though on rare occasions.
They will give you a cowbell. Derunta. Yeah, that's what you play. Because you know nothing about music. We call it downbeat in music. They give you that thing to play. And you are like, go, 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 go. So you keep the timing, you keep the groove. For about 3 years, I was playing that packing, playing that derunta.
The talent from Tamale stayed motivated, grabbing every opportunity to learn while still paying his dues.
So one day, the backing singer couldn't come. I had to force to do it, That's when every night, they stand with you, they hold ruler. When they play, you're supposed to hum it. When you flat, and then we call it goro. You do your hand like this, and then you use the ruler. Yes, because you got to learn, because you are born to do it. It got to a time the concalis also wasn't consistent. So sometimes I find myself playing percussion. It keep building.
Beyond the occasional pep talk from seniors, the thought of mastering his act someday kept him going. After over a decade of serving, Fatal released his maiden album in 2015. Fatal Keita featured diva Biala on his latest love song, My Baby, a single off a yet-to-be-released sophomore recording.
I don't love to talk about my past, it's gone. But I have lost the baby, the mother and then this kid. They died in an accident. So to keep my baby in my head, I need to, have that, my baby.
The Tamale boy's journey is an example of big dreams started small. And guess what? Fatal Keita is poised not to only entertain, but impact the world with his music.
Yeah,
great
nice
talent
guy.
there.
Absolutely. Wish him all the best. But on behalf of the rest of the team, we're grateful. Thank you for watching us here on News 360. My name is Alfred Okansi.
And I am Natalie Fort. We've got more news on our website, 3news.com. And news at 10 later this evening will simulcast on our sister station, 3FM 92.7. Next is Tashan. Enjoy your weekend.